It's no news that Netflix's famed animated adaptation of Castlevania video game series has been widely praised as one of the most successful adaptations of a video game franchise. While fans of the classic horror action games have been disappointed by Konami's apparent reluctance or inability to produce new experiences in the series, the Castlevania animated series has inherently filled that void, rather admirably. It skillfully plays with the established canon to create a more engaging and satisfying narrative, which really has drawn the attention of a whole new set of fans outside the gaming arena. In the early Castlevania games, the story was delivered through instructional booklets, brief text snippets between levels, or scattered context clues. Even as the series progressed to titles like The Symphony of the Night, voice acting added depth to the characters, but the narrative remained predominantly gameplay-focused. Eventually, the Castlevania animated series came in like a refreshing breath of air and became an iconic addition to the franchise. In order to satiate fans who demanded for more, the franchise came off with a new spin-off series, Castlevania Nocturne, which really topped off the charts with its impeccable character design and culturally rich storyline, drawing on new details and elements. Continuing the tradition of Castlevania's iconic villain, Castlevania Nocturne introduced a compelling antagonistic form of vampire queen Erzsebet Báthory. What's intriguing is that this character draws inspiration from real-life history, much like Dracula in the series, who was based on the 15th century Wallachian prince Vlad Dracula, known for his gruesome methods of punishment, including impaling his enemies on sharp stakes. Furthermore, this woman is not some old-ass vampire. She is a literal goddess. How, you ask? Well, this video is your guide to everything you need to know about Queen Erzsebet Báthory. So, without wasting another second, let's get right into it. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, let's begin.
Man of God.
I am a god.
Who is Queen Erzsebet Báthory in the Castlevania universe? So Erzsebet Báthory made her debut in the Castlevania series back in 1994 with the release of Castlevania Bloodlines. In the American version of the game, she goes by the name Elizabeth Bartley and serves as one of the game's final bosses. Here, Bartley engages in a fierce battle against the heroes, John Morris and Eric Lecard. During this showdown, she has the ability to either summon or transform into Medusa, ultimately transforming into a powerful opponent in her own right. Once the player manages to defeat this monstrous form, Bartley unleashes a relentless assault using a barrage of elemental spheres. Castlevania Bloodlines skillfully weaves historical details and folklore into its narrative, introducing a unique and somewhat absurd dimension to Bartley's lore. In the game's story, Bartley is portrayed as a ruthless killer who sacrifices countless victims to indulge in the macabre act of drinking their blood. Interestingly, the game also presents a twist by suggesting a familial connection between Bartley and the Tepes family, which is known for giving rise to Dracula himself. Following her imprisonment, Bartley endures a 300-year-long slumber. Her awakening is orchestrated by an old ally, and this resurgence marks the beginning of her quest for vengeance against the royal family of Austria. She accomplishes this by taking the life of a young noble, a sinister act that plays a role in catalyzing the events of World War I. It is also worth noting that the game incorrectly identifies the Austrian assassination victim, but it unequivocally attributes to the responsibility for the conflict of Bartley. Ultimately, Elizabeth Bartley meets her demise within the confines of Castlevania Bloodlines, and her character has remained dormant in the series ever since, not receiving any further mention or development. Queen Erzsebet Báthory as the vampire messiah in Castlevania Nocturne. Like every other good villain, Queen Erzsebet Báthory is also a power addict maniac hellbent on world domination, where the vampires reign over powerless mortals. As many of you already know, Erzsebet Báthory takes center stage as the primary antagonist in Netflix Castlevania Nocturne, where she embodies the role of a vampire countess who boldly proclaims herself as the vampire messiah. Her thirst for power and domination knows no bounds, as she is consumed consume the blood of the Egyptian war goddess Sekhmet, thereby absorbing her divine powers. In this spin-off series, Báthory's malevolent ambition centers around a desire to cast the world into an unending night, perpetuating eternal darkness. In her twisted vision, she seeks to lead the vampire race in a brutal campaign to crush the burgeoning French Revolution and ultimately conquer the entirety of the world. Here, Erzsebet is first seen as an unnaturally tall vampire with very pale skin, which serves as a striking backdrop to her piercing red eyes that seem to burn with intensity. Her distinctive rosy red hair is a remarkable feature, styled in a unique manner that causes it to stand upright on her head, giving her an air of otherworldly elegance. She wears a gold tiara perched atop her head, adding to her commanding presence. At the center of her attire, Erzsebet proudly displays a blood-red gemstone, drawing attention to her chest and emphasizing her powerful aura. Her customary attire often consists of a dark blue dress with a high collarbone, distinguished by brownish outlines that accentuate its design. Completing her look, she wears arm gloves that lend an air of sophistication to her overall appearance. For her journeys in her chariot, Erzsebet adopts a more powerful ensemble as she dons a set of resplendent golden armor crafted in the likeness of Sekhmet, exuding an air of majesty and strength. This armor includes a wide, plain white skirt that adds a touch of regalness to her appearance. Notably, both her regular attire and her chariot traveling ensemble feature an exposed cleavage, combining power and allure in her captivating presence. Almost like any other megalomaniac vampire, Erzsebet's origin is also rooted in her human existence, marked by a notorious reputation for unimaginable cruelty. During her mortal life, she subjected countless young girls and boys to unspeakable torture and murder, leaving a trail of horror in her wake. However, her transformation into a vampire elevated her status to that of a countess. Under her leadership, she garnered the allegiance of fanatical vampires and humans, including sociopaths like Drolta Zuentes. Together, they orchestrated brutal massacres in settlements that dared to defy vampire authority, capturing young women from these raids and imprisoning them in her dungeon for her twisted amusement, watching them bleed out or simply torturing them. One of the unfortunate victims of her cruelty was Tara's sister, whom Erzsebet turned into a vampire during her captivity. Tara was a sorceress and gave Richter Belmont a home in France after his mother's demise at the hands of Olrox. Anyway, Tara's desperate attempt to rescue her sister from the dungeon ultimately led to a heartbreaking act of mercy when she found out that Erzsebet turned her sister into a vampire, which forced her to stake her own sister before fleeing the Countess's castle in Russia. Erzsebet's insatiable thirst for power led her to drink the blood of Sekhmet, gaining godlike abilities in the process. Unsatisfied with her newfound strength, she harbored a sinister ambition to vanquish the sun god Ra and plunge the world into eternal darkness. This would enable her to conquer the world and demand the worship she believed she deserved. Hence, calling herself as the Vampire Messiah, Erzsebet gained the support of other vampires as the Devourer of Light, one who would rid the world of light, which would ultimately allow every vampire to come out of the shadows to revel in pitch-black darkness. To achieve her malevolent goals, she rallied a powerful and elite force of vampires, including exploiting their fear of rising slave revolutions and disruption of the status quo. She even secured human supporters, notably the Forge Master Abbot Emmanuel, who saw her as a necessary evil to eradicate the French Revolution, viewed as an affront to God. In the series, Erzsebet dispatched Drolta to Europe to negotiate an alliance with Abbot Emmanuel in preparation for her arrival, and spread the news of the enigmatic vampire messiah to attract more supporters. Upon her arrival in Europe, Drolta presented Erzsebet with a young maiden whose father had been involved in the revolution. As nature would permit, Erzsebet took an immediate interest in the girl, keeping her close while gradually draining her blood. Following a compelling speech to her followers, she learned of Emmanuel's secret daughter with Tara, Maria Renard, whom they intend to use as a leverage to ensure his unwavering loyalty. In a subsequent meeting with Olrox, Erzsebet revealed her intention to extend her conquest to America and sought Olrox's guidance in the New World. However, she encountered resistance from Olrox, who displayed disrespect for her authority and skepticism regarding her alliance with the Christian Forge Master. To assert her dominance, she mentioned her plans to use Maria as a bargaining chip and subtly threaten Olrox by conjuring a sphere of darkness in her hand. Meeting Emmanuel in the church the following morning, Erzsebet and Drolta unveiled their knowledge of Maria being his daughter, demanding that he seal their alliance by offering Maria's blood as a gesture of loyalty. Back at the chateau, Erzsebet finally harnessed her powers to eclipse the sun, casting the world into eternal night before unleashing her forces to wreak havoc throughout Paris. Empowered by the eclipse, Erzsebet transformed into an avatar of Sekhmet. Her once delicate facial features underwent a dramatic shift, taking on a more rugged and pronounced appearance. We notice her hair strikingly morphing into a fiery blood-red mane reminiscent of a lion's mane, as her eyebrows became thicker and more pronounced. Additionally, she gained a good few inches in height, further enhancing her imposing presence and elevating her menacing aura. Apart from her facial transformation, Erzsebet's attire also changed as she donned a voluminous black cape with a striking golden collar that accentuates her shoulders. Her waist-high dress exhibited a unique fashion, featuring a top portion in blue with dark yellow outlines, seamlessly transitioning into a white lower section. Adorning her attire was a prominent gold medallion at the center, adding to her regal appearance as the Vampire Queen. Her transformation also included the incorporation of a metallic bra that concealed her breasts, while her midriff was left exposed, showcasing a captivating blend of strength and allure. This form embodied her newfound power and dominance as she confronted her adversaries with an unmistakable powerful presence. In a dramatic confrontation at the church, Erzsebet confronted her enemies, including Richter Belmont, who attempted to thwart her. She displayed her divine power by remaining impervious to their attacks, even absorbing Richter's direct blast of fire right to her face. Shockingly, it was later revealed that Erzsebet didn't really intend on killing Maria, but sought to turn her into a powerful vampire under her control. Naturally, Abbot Emmanuel's horrified realization of this plan left him shaken to the core, which led Tara to take charge on saving their daughter from a disgraced fate. She confronted Erzsebet and introduced herself as the Speaker, who had fled from her clutches decades earlier after stabbing her sister and ultimately offered herself in Maria's place. Of course, Erzsebet seized the opportunity, holding Tara down and biting her neck before having her drink her blood. Unfortunately, Richter and his troop were left with no choice but to flee. Following this, Erzsebet dispatched Drolta to chase the fleeing heroes, making it abundantly clear that she had no motive of letting them go, as they were associated with the French Revolution, which Emmanuel wanted to help them eradicate. This made it abundantly clear that the only person Erzsebet cared for was herself, and only took decisions that served her own nefarious agendas. What is the historical significance behind Queen Erzsebet Báthory's character? The character of Erzsebet Báthory is borrowed from the historical figure Countess Erzsebet Báthory, a Hungarian noblewoman whose terrifying legacy served as the inspiration for the dreaded vampire villain in Netflix animated series Castlevania Nocturne. Born in 1560 into the esteemed Báthory family, Elizabeth hailed from a clan which possessed extensive land holdings in what is now modern-day Slovakia. Initially, she appeared to live in a seemingly ordinary life within one of Europe's grand royal courts. However, following her husband's death in 1604, rumors began to circulate regarding her cruel practices, mirroring the theme of Dracula's inspiration from historical figures within the Castlevania franchise. Countess Erzsebet Báthory faced grave allegations in 1602, when she was 42 years old. Accusations arose that she and 4 of her servants had been responsible for the deaths of young women sent to her palace to learn etiquette. These allegations included mentions of the use of needles and various forms of torture. It is essential to note that these accusations were predominantly based on rumors, and some modern scholars believe that Elizabeth may have been the victim of a witch hunt. Her servants suffered torture and execution, while she herself was imprisoned within her castle, where she ultimately died after 3 years in captivity. Local folklore contributed to sensationalized stories about Elizabeth, depicting her as bathing in blood of virgins to preserve her youth. Her legend profoundly influenced vampire fiction for generations, and she was often associated with the moniker Countess Dracula. In Castlevania Nocturne, the animated antagonist Erzsebet Báthory exhibits similarities to the real-life Elizabeth, particularly in her gruesome actions involving the murder of numerous virgin girls and women for their blood. Elizabeth Báthory faced accusations of killing over 600 innocent victims, earning her a place in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most prolific female murderer in the Western world. The legend suggested that she believed bathing in the blood of her victims would grant her her eternal youth, further solidifying her reputation as Countess Dracula in real life. Erzsebet Báthory's early life involved her marriage to Count Ferenc Nadasdy at the young age of 15, with Nadasdy being 19 at the time in 1575. Nadasdy was a renowned but brutal soldier, and their marriage is said to have introduced Erzsebet to various forms of cruelty and torture. She resided in a castle located in present-day Slovakia, where rumors of her heinous deeds began to circulate widely. Her notoriety grew when she faced accusations of murdering the daughters of lower-ranking nobility, eventually reaching the king's attention. According to historians, both Erzsebet and her former husband displayed a disturbing fascination with torture and were into some freaky shit. A National Geographic report research revealed that Nadasdy once orchestrated a horrifying scenario for Erzsebet's pleasure. In this gruesome act, a young girl was restrained, covered in honey, and subjected to torment by lethal insects. Nadasdy also gifted the Countess gloves equipped with claws, enabling her to ruthlessly punish her servants for their errors. Adding to this moral decay was Erzsebet's aunt, Clara, who introduced her to a world of debauchery, including orgies and association with a shadowy circle of individuals considered to be sorcerers, witches, and alchemists. The investigation into Erzsebet's actions fell to her cousin. Rumors circulated that she had been involved in the murder of peasant women. Her cousin embarked on a thorough inquiry, interviewing hundreds of people residing in the vicinity of her estate. His findings led to the conviction of Erzsebet and 4 of her servants for the murder and torture of over 80 young women and girls. However, some witnesses suggested that her true body count might have approached a staggering 600 victims. 3 of the 4 servants were executed for their alleged crimes, while Báthory herself was confined to her opulent castle, where she remained until her death in 1614. Debate continues to this day regarding whether the Countess truly committed or ordered any murders at all. One plausible theory suggests that the rumors were strategically propagated to undermine her family's power within the state. At the time, her family's influence was believed to rival that of Habsburg Empire, and in time marked by warring factions that nearly brought Europe to its knees. Political intrigue abounded. As Richard Pallardy of Britannica noted, Báthory was a powerful woman, made more so by her control of Nadasdy's holdings after his death. It is noteworthy that a significant debt owed to Erzsebet by King Matthias was forgiven by her family in exchange for the right to oversee her confinement. This suggests that allegations against her may have been politically motivated slander, permitting her relatives to seize control of her extensive lands. The full truth regarding Erzsebet Báthory's actions remains a subject of historical debate, but her legacy as one of the history's most enigmatic and notorious figures is undeniable. Whether she was the original vampire queen or a pawn in a larger political game, her story leaves us to ponder which narrative is more chilling, that of Castlevania Nocturne's vampire queen, or the true countess who inspired her tale. Does her power exceed the Dracula himself? Erzsebet, as a vampire, shares many of the typical abilities attributed to her kind. Her immortality is a defining trait, rendering her impervious to the effects of aging, ensuring she remains forever in her physical prime. With a mere thought, she possesses the power of levitation, allowing her to effortlessly ascend from the ground, as she exemplified when she gracefully dismounts from her chariot. However, Erzsebet's prowess as a vampire of unparalleled power extends beyond the ordinary, as witnessed through her ability to undergo a transformation into a more monstrous and formidable form. This metamorphosis aligns with her and her fierce attributes of Sekhmet, complete with a heightened stature, paying homage to Sekhmet's identity as a lion-headed goddess. In this evolved state, Erzsebet becomes a godlike entity, nearly impervious to various forms of attack, including elemental magic and even Richter's immensely powerful and sacred vampire killing whip. Perhaps one of her most enigmatic and influential abilities is her mastery of eclipse summoning and manipulation of darkness magic. This profound connection to darkness on a grand scale enables her to summon eclipses at will, granting her followers the freedom to operate without the hindrance of any sunlight-induced harm. This extraordinary power serves as the cornerstone of her claim as the vampire vampire messiah as she pledges to her devoted disciples in an era of perpetual darkness and unbridled dominance over humanity. Now, of course, Dracula has always been famed for his immense power within the Castlevania franchise, but his world domination sure as hell didn't include draining a literal god and then emerging as a devourer of light, sucking in the sun's radiance and enshrouding the world in eternal darkness. So, while it's a tough call, Erzsebet probably has the power to whoop Dracula's ass while filing her nails. Marvelous verdict. In just one season, Queen Erzsebet Báthory has cemented her status as one of the most powerful antagonists in Castlevania's blood-soaked history. Plus, the new spin-off series has done impeccable justice by demonstrating such unadulterated creativity with the source material. Erzsebet's character truly holds the power to build a new legacy and even throw the kind of impact Dracula's character had within the franchise for decades. Us fans were literally dying for a refreshing outtake on the legacy of bloodshed within the Castlevania franchise, and maybe Erzsebet Báthory finally holds the potential to ascend this blood-drenched dark throne. Now that we've come to the very end of this video, what do you guys think of the character? Will Queen Erzsebet Báthory ever live up to Dracula's humongous shoes? Let us know in the comments below.